What is going on, everybody? Non here, and we're gonna take a stop from the Pokemon GameStop absolute batshit crazy train. Uh, Mega Evolutions boxes are strongly over $300. The market is pretty much dried up, and a lot of the product is being held back. Not necessarily from distribution, but a lot of the big sellers, they've sold their piece, they've made their money back. I mean, remember, these guys are buying it at 90, $92. You don't have to sell that many boxes at 250 to 300 to make your money back, and you just sit on the rest and just kind of wait for the world to burn. So yeah, it's kind of interesting, but I'll talk about Magic. So those you guys should have seen that last weekend at Atlantic Comic Con. They spoiled effectively what is the 2026 schedule. So I want to talk a little bit in depth about the market, some of the printings, and what we've seen. So with Spider-Man, we're in probably the bottoming phase of what is probably the largest. I don't want to say I don't want to say disaster because it's not. I mean, it's still slightly above MSRP, but the biggest leg down in a product in Magic the Gathering, quite possibly ever, if you look at the nominal dollars and maybe even percent. For these things to go from $1,000, $900 to 475 to 525, now you're talking 40% reduction. Pretty much overnight since they announced there weren't going to be any serialized cards in the set. Now, again, the prices were so inflated because of Final Fantasy. The expectations were sky high. Quite honestly, in hindsight, it was never going to hit that because, nothing is going to do what Final Fantasy did, at least in the near future. Quite honestly, I don't think in that 2026 schedule either. But now where we're at is we have collector boxes. A lot of the bots, scalpers on Amazon have canceled. So a lot of that product's come back to market into the hands of consumers at a much better price. 455, and then I think it was as low as 429, which is really, really nice for a change to actually be able to get product, to manually order product, which also tells me it's probably a little bit overprinted, but that's a different conversation. And we've recently gotten about about 60% of our initial allocation in a secondary wave through distribution. So I don't know where this magical wave came from. I know Rudy mentioned in his video that it was stuck in customs. I believe, which it was printed in the US, so it can't be stuck in customs. It couldn't have been stuck in transport anywhere. And maybe I heard that wrong, but I don't care enough to go back and look. But yeah, the Spider-Man collector boxes were all printed in the US. The same way that the collector boxes of Edge of Eternities were printed in the US after Tarkir and Final Fantasy and prior, back up until Duskmourn, which was US printed, were all printed in Japan. And the change was made presumably because of the risk of tariffs. For those of you who don't know, early on, there was a lot of saber rattling about 100% tariffs in Japan and all kinds of stuff. So my personal view is that Wizards of the Coast changed where they're printing the collector boxes, A, to make sure they don't have any import issues, B, to avoid any tariff issues, and C, quite honestly, because they could. Now it looks like for Avatar, they are going back to Japan. The manufacturing country in all of the distributors who post the country are showing in Japan for that. They're also showing in Japan for Lorwyn. And they correctly show US for Spider-Man and Edge of Eternity. So I just wanted to check that and make sure it was actually a legitimate feed and it wasn't just kind of a bullshit checkmark. But getting back to Spider-Man, there's a ton of singles on the market. And it almost seems like these boxes were being mass opened early on, presumably because the singles in Final Fantasy made so much money early on. It was like a 3 to 4x on what the market value of the product was for the first week or two. It was obscenely high. I think everybody tried to do the same thing. And with the demand softening a little bit, it backfired to some extent. Now, I think what saved the collector boxes is obviously the Soulstone. Looks like the print run of these is, somewhere around 500. I did a video on that, similar to what the Sothera headliner for Edge of Eternities was. Yeah, and we can look at the number of graded cards and kind of ballpark. I did a video on it with Final Fantasy where you can look at how many chocobos have been discovered, officially discovered, how many were graded, and you can kind of back into the grade rate and back into the the pull rate of how many packs as a ratio of the total pulled, and then you can extrapolate out into the different chocobos. Now that doesn't directly correlate into Edge of Eternities and Spider-Man, but when you change the collation and you change the frequency of the cards in the set, it does add complexity and it does change the manufacturing process, where you have to fine-tune things. So there's really no reason to do it. And again, that's why I got back to, I'm still at the point where, I think the fact that these two sets don't have serialized in is because they probably couldn't do it, or there was something that was cost prohibitive, time prohibitive as they moved into the U.S. print facility, where they just didn't get done. Because quite honestly, if you're not going to serialize it, you're going to print more, right? And what we're seeing is, I think we've seen like 13 Soulstones come out so far, and we're a week into release. Now, obviously, a lot of it, the rip rate of this stuff is nowhere close to what it was for Final Fantasy. But I mean, at this point, with the chocobos, there were like 20 of them found, and there's obviously only 77 of those. So the Soulstone is going to probably be a 5-figure card. Now, whether that's 100,000, or I'm sorry, whether that's 10,000, 20,000, or 30,000. I think one just sold for like 32,000. I don't think anybody knows where it's going to settle. My guess is probably going to be somewhere around 25,000. But if that chases in the set, and then you have all the different Spider-Man, which are quite honestly like the Neon Chocobos from Final Fantasy, and they seem to be a very similar rarity, you're going to have a lot of value in the packs of cards that aren't going to get smashed. And quite honestly, there's going to be demand for them, outside of the Magic the Gathering realm, because you have the Spectacular Spider-Man. I guess that's what the card is, and then this, and then you really do have some cool flip cards with the comic book backs as well. So I think these boxes, they've probably floored here. Now, they may sit here for, a month or two, but I think the singles are going to sell through and they're going to start to move up, and everything. I think everybody's opinion of the set is going to go from extremely sour because they were disappointed from, God forbid, taking a step back from the greatest set in the history of Magic, to, all right, you know what, this set isn't nearly as bad as we thought in the first place. And again, I'm not talking about playability of the set or anything like that, because quite honestly, I don't have time to play Magic. So I let other people tell me if it's playable or not, and I kind of take that with a grain of salt. But I think as we get into the June Marvel set next year, these collector boxes are going to be back at $800, $900, because you're going to have all of the hype going into that set, and it's going to be like, oh shit, we had Spider-Man last year. It's still reasonably cheap compared to Final Fantasy, or I think Avatar is going to be a little weak personally. I've been pretty outspoken about that. But these are the opportunities that you get where the market rejects a product for absolutely no reason other than it's not Final Fantasy, and it doesn't have serialized cards. So I have a hard time believing that a Spider-Man property, which is one of the largest IPs in the world when it comes to things like this, has much further down to go, and quite honestly just doesn't have an immense amount of demand on the upside. So moving on, I want to talk about Avatar before I go back into this one. So Avatar is interesting because I was under the assumption that this was going to get printed in the US and we were going to have the same situation with no serialized cards, but it does look like these will in fact be printed in Japan, which is very ironic because it was written in the US, but anyway, which is odd for anime. But it doesn't look like we're going to have serialized cards in here, which again, I think is a miss. And if you guys noticed how quickly they came out and they spoiled the serialized card box for Lorwyn, and then they spoiled the serialized card. I mean, they were shitting their pants. They couldn't wait to get that out to the market because they knew they fucked up. And quite honestly, the market punished them for it. The market punished them immensely for it. So, Avatar, yeah, I've seen the cartoon. It's okay. I know some people love it, but it's a very narrow IP. So this set is going to have to be an absolute home run banger, because I don't think, in my opinion, the IP is going to carry the set. But we'll see what happens. I mean, the allocations on this have been super tight. I don't think there's a snowball's chance in hell that the collector booster box or the collector boxes, continue to sit at $800. I'd be shocked if these are north of 600, probably somewhere around MSRP to 525 at release. But again, we don't know the cards in the set, and that is going to make or break the set. If the set is shitty, the IP will not support it, and we could see the set be a little bit of a train wreck. So the set has to be good, and it has to be playable. There have to be cards that people want to play, and then it'll be cool. Now, chase-wise, I have no idea what it could even be because I don't know the IP very well. And then, we have this little bundle here. This is basically a gift bundle with an extra pack. So not a whole lot to talk about there. Now, what I do want to talk about before we go to, of course, I don't even have it up here, the Final Fantasy Chocobo bundle. So this is the holiday bundle. It comes out December 5th. This is now at distribution. It looks like the cost is about $70. MSRP is like $109.99, $110, something like that. It comes so that you have the scene boxes. The scene boxes don't really do anything for me. But the Chocobo box, I believe, has 4 scene boxes. Each scene box has 3 play packs. And by the way, for those of you who've been screaming for play packs, now you know where they are. They've been printing the shit out of them to either go to Best Buy or they've been going into this holiday edition box. And they're not making it to the market, which is why Playbox Final Fantasy are sitting at $100 or $260, even though the value of the singles is a fraction of that right now. But I digress. It looks like it has some really cool cards. It does not appear to have serialized cards in the set. Again, I don't understand why you're going to do Edge, Spider-Man, Avatar, and Final Fantasy and not have serialized cards in the set. So you went 5 in a row with, now you're going 4 without. Especially if, you're now changing printing facilities back to the old one, presumably. It doesn't make any sense, and I wish they would come out and they would just say exactly why. Just give a reason why you're not doing that, because it's obviously something that people want to see. Now, maybe they did it to cool down the market. I'm not sure they're playing 4D chess, but I could be wrong. So, moving on to 2026. So, Lorwyn Eclipse. This is interesting because I personally did not like the Lorwyn plane 18 years ago, which nobody remembers. But sets were kind of weak. They're kind of shitty. I think the Shadowmoor boxes are still selling for like $300, which is just objectively awful. But it looks like it's going to be super tribal, and it looks like there's 4 or 8 tribes. I'm not really sure. But I do want to mention for Lorwyn, they raised MSRP significantly again. So my cost on play boxes has gone up $10. My price on collector boxes has gone up almost $15. For those of you who didn't pick up on it, the Edge of Eternity's collector boxes at MSRP were $2.99 on Amazon. The Lorwyn collector boxes are now $3.23. So all of that is reflective of the fact that they are, again, raising prices. The set is probably going to be decent. Again, it's fighting against the stigma of Aether Drift, Innistrad Remastered, and Karloff Manor. And I threw Innistrad Remastered in there. It's not a perfect comp, but it is an absolute garbage time of year when sets go to die. But it is going to be the first real Magic set in 6-7 months. So it's going to be interesting. And again, you get the play boosters. The play boosters, I mean, our cost is almost $100 now. I know most of you have seen the sales for $100 on TCG Player. I ran one for Edge of Eternities. $100 is pretty damn close to my cost now, which it wasn't back then. So, they're really pushing the envelope with price. So they're pushing more sets. They're pushing price up. I'm hoping it's just not a matter of time before they push more product out the door. But the other thing that's interesting is if you look at the calendar, it lines up where they're really hammering two sets in the quarters where they need to hit them. Because it's apparent. This is their golden goose. Everybody knows that. And Q1, Q2, Q4, they're hitting two sets. Q3, which is their weak quarter, which is where we're in right now, they're only hitting one set. The draft night, this is effectively the gift box, but it has a collector pack and 12 play boosters, which is interesting. It's almost like you throw one collector booster box in and you just keep throwing extra garbage in to charge more, which kind of feels like what they're doing. So we'll see what happens here. We also have these new pre-con decks that don't confuse them with the commander decks. There's only 2 commander decks, the same as last year with Aether Drift. But there are these pre-con decks. I think it's a case of 8, but there's 2 of each that are tribal. Quite honestly, they remind me of those Pioneer decks, which were complete garbage. But at this point, there shouldn't be anything bad. I almost forgot. Just real quick with we also have Jumpstart coming with Avatar, which I don't think anybody's known anything about yet. And again, this is the one Jumpstart set a year. So I think that's a sleeper. I'd probably pay attention to that. And then, Strixhaven, I don't really give a shit about Strixhaven. But I do want to come back to this in a second. Because right here it says an upcoming Universes Beyond set will be unveiling the second set in 2026 at New York Comic Con. A lot of rumors that it's going to be a Nickelodeon set. For those of you who don't know, they clearly have a blanket license with Nickelodeon for all the properties. They've done SpongeBob. They've done Avatar, as obviously Nickelodeon. But there have been rumors that it's Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, and we did get a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle set in, is it Universes? It was one of those IP crossover sets in I think summer of this year, and they tend to kind of come out at the same time. For example, you have Weiss Nikki, who came out in June, July, and now there is whatever the Bandai game is. I don't think that's Universes. It's Union Arena is coming out in November, December. So they tend to piggyback off each other, so that makes a little bit of sense. I'm not sure I could tolerate a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle set, even though I grew up with it. It's another shell IP. I'm hoping this ends up being the Harry Potter one, and then you roll right into Strixhaven, which is Universes within, whatever, that's a stupid saying. But again, nobody knows. We'll know 10 days from now, and there won't be any more surprise. But the big one here is Marvel 2026 in June. So the biggest opportunity that I see in all this is the Spider-Man collector boxes right now. Rolling into the hype of this Marvel superhero set, they're going to be on fire. So they're on fire in a bad way now. They're going to be on fire in a good way then. So take advantage of it. Play the long game a little bit. Go into The Hobbit. Lord of the Rings doesn't do anything for me. I'm sure a lot of people are going to look at this, but look, it's the sequel to every movie tends to be shitty. And I just tend to think that the second iteration of, yes, it's not Lord of the Rings, it's Hobbit, same fucking thing. So relax, nerds. It's like, was it Clerks 2, where it's just like do. Okay, the end, like 6 hours later. That's how it feels like. Whatever. Reality Fracture. Nobody gives a shit about the October set right now. So we'll see. And then Star Trek. Star Trek's a weird one, because my dad loves Star Trek. My dad's also in his 70s. Star Trek The Next Generation was kind of like the last one that had any real viewership. I know they had some more recent ones. They had a couple movies. It's an old IP. I don't know. But it does go to show that the spot card that was spoiled that everybody called bullshit on was probably a real card. So anyway, I wanted to go through this because I wanted to hit on the country of origin of the print cards, and I wanted to touch on the Spider-Man opportunity going into June of next year. Because June of next year, we're going to start to get spoilers in April. So, and we're October now, so October, November, December. We're 6 months away from the hype cycle restarting on Spider-Man. It rarely comes this close together from a massive market opportunity like that, like this. And I mean, I sold out all my boxes at close or at pre-release, and I mean, I'm almost up to 200 boxes now, just kind of socking them away because I see the opportunity. It's gonna be there. You have the expensive cards, and then you have the hype cycle coming. I mean, in my view, it's an easy couple $100 up from here, from 530, even 550. So anyway, guys, wanted to talk about something on the Pokemon for tonight. So here we go. Here's some magic. So anyway, guys, like the video, subscribe to the channel, join the Discord. We are starting our monthly sale tomorrow, where I have 5 different commander decks up, and I have a couple pallets of everything. So what we're going to do is we're going to limit them to anybody can place an order, 1 order per month, up to 10. We have the coupons on the site. I need to do a tutorial for it on the in Discord, just so all the new folks have it. But everything's listed at $1,134.99. The coupon comes in as a sub. You get them for $134.99. So that's Ixalan, Duskmourn, Bloomborough. Final Fantasy is a couple bucks more. Not great because that's in full on dump, but I think I have those at $169.99. And then I have some fraternities in there also for $134.99. And I have a bunch of Tark here coming in the next couple weeks. So yeah, if it's interesting, join the Discord. We'll talk through it. Feel free to PM me. And then we also have a lot of ancillary Pokemon stuff that we're just hopefully I can get listed tonight, worst case tomorrow, where each one of the subs is going to get a coupon. First come, first serve. You can buy a case of ancillary product, whether it's EX boxes or tins. Generally speaking, I probably have 20 to 30 cases of all the ancillary stuff. It's a good way for people who want to collect cases to get cases. I can move product at a little bit of a discount to market, and it gives people the opportunity to pick and choose. So anyway, guys, have a good night. We'll talk tomorrow.